I am opening my heart up tonight to you guys to talk about burnout, basically. This is a very complicated concept, and we're definitely going to have questions and, like, comments, whatever. But the gist of it is this is very tangible for the phone bankers on this call. This is going to be a bit more abstract to those of you who do not do phone banking. It's definitely related to leadership skills. This comes up when you're like recruiting people, when you're trying to get people involved with like a real movement. But there's this idea of like, it's called like, what I call it at least, is you have this balancing act whenever you're involved in any kind of leadership thing, any kind of advocacy related thing. You have to balance these two ideas that are directly conflicting with each other a lot of the time. One of them is trusting the process, and the other one is speaking from the heart. They work against each other a lot of the time. It's very difficult to do both. What I mean when I say that is that on like a practical level, right? Like, let's say you're phone banking and you're talking to someone and you're trying to get them to sign up for like a represent us action. Let's just say that. And this person's really difficult. They're just like really hard to talk to. They interrupt you a lot. They're kind of rude. And you feel that like if you pull something really special from inside yourself right now and share that with them, that you will be able to recruit them. And when I'm like, this is like when you go off script, when you start telling people your life story. And I know that a lot of people involved in this kind of work have a tendency to do that. It's not a bad thing, just to be clear. Like, that's not a bad thing at all. It's just that what I'm talking about is that when you do that a lot, and I know a lot of you do it a lot because I've heard some of your role plays, and I know that so many of you are really passionate about this work in a way that I admire, in a way that inspires me to like keep doing this, honestly. But it can be exhausting, basically. It can just be really exhausting to keep putting so much of yourself out there all the time. It's really hard to be present all the time when you're talking to these people, when you're leading anything. Like, you know that people are looking to you, they want to hear you make decisions and everything. And it's just, there's an emotionally exhausting element of this work, which is why burnout is inevitable. We don't really talk about it a lot as like professional organizers because it's not fun. It's sad. And it's like, I don't know, as someone who's been a volunteer leader before, like, I've seen people burn out, and I have seen paid staff not really do anything about it or address it. And I don't know, I just don't want to be that person. So it's like, I'm not saying this isn't because anyone here is burning out, from my knowledge. It's just good to know and have that support, that like, it's very normal. These battles are hard. We're going to lose a lot before we start winning. If you're doing like a recruitment phone bank, you're going to hear a lot of people say no. You text a lot of people for a text bank, a lot of people say no before they say yes. It's sad because it's just like, how are we going to win this? It can feel really hopeless. And the thing is, when you do open yourself up, it kind of like makes it easier to burn out, I guess. So it's like what I'm talking about, and this will make more sense as we get into it, is that there's a balancing act here, essentially, between like trusting the process, using the script, trusting the stuff that organizers have given you, trust that they know what they're doing, and just do what they say because you know it'll work. And when you can balance that with your own personal stuff, it can be really powerful. It's just hard. I'm not doing a slideshow for tonight because I feel like in the theme of this sort of training, uh, basically, like on a pragmatic level, I could show you guys a slideshow right now that basically talks about burnout and has some really great talking points. There's a really good Batman joke halfway through it. I love it. But I don't know if it's actually going to convey what I want it to. So I'm instead just letting myself be on camera, and I'm going to talk about my story, I guess, in a moment where I'm going to speak from the heart, because I think that's actually the most effective way to communicate this with you guys. So, all of you probably know that I used to be a Greenpeace canvasser because I don't stop talking about it. I talk about it a lot. I'm always telling stories and things that I learned from being a canvasser with Greenpeace, which basically for about 8 months, I was knocking on doors. I was asking people to sign up and donate money every single month to Greenpeace. It was really hard. A lot of people left. Every week we'd have 5 people start, and then none of them would make staff. We had like a solid 2 months where I think we trained like 30 new people and none of them made staff. And it was really sad because our family, our team wasn't growing because people couldn't make it because the job was so hard. And the thing that I don't talk about much because it's sad is that 6 months into me working at Greenpeace, I was actually let go. And I did work there for 8 months, but I have a gap. I have a 2 month gap in between the times that I was there. And basically, my self critique and self analysis basically tells me that what I used to do is that I never trusted the process because, like, I'm very gnarly and I don't like being told what to do. I just like to do my own thing. We were encouraged to write our own scripts, but like, I was talking to people every day. Like, you'd talk to 30 to 50 people every day. And I would just like, I don't know, empath city. I'm an empath. I would just listen to people and I would just speak from the heart constantly. And it made me feel really happy, honestly, because like I was signing up people who were tough cookies, but I would also spend like a half hour at the door with people sometimes. And it was hard because it's like when you do that sort of thing, when you're really like going for it and you're going into like your own personal stories in your life, even right now talking about this is a little emotionally exhausting for me. It makes it really hard to show up for everybody else because it's like if you do a really good job on 5 people and you turn them into these projects where it's like, oh, I'm going to sign this person up, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to reverse engineer this, this person's a puzzle, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to tell them something about myself, I'm going to make them like me, I'm going to learn about them, and then I'm going to sign them up because I'm really good at this. And I never used real traditional pushback stuff. I just didn't do it. And I got amazing signups. I still learned a lot, but after 6 months, I hit a point where I burnt out and I just couldn't do it. And unfortunately, that specific job is anti-burnout. You can't burn out there. If you burn out, if you miss a day, if you don't do well for one day, it really messes you up because you have to make $150 every week in monthly stuff, right? So if you miss a day, it sets you off and it's really hard to catch up. And I did not make it after 6 months because I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so tired because it was like I had opened myself up to so many people and I was out. I was just out. I was just going door to door and it was really hard for me to even like do a normal thing because I was exhausted. I had a day once where I literally had it's kind of funny in hindsight. I had like 4 widows in a row, like literally like 4 people who were like, my husband just died in a row. And it was like, oh no. And one of them cried, and I cried with them, and it was a lot. Um, so that's the sad part, right? Now, what happened is after I left, I decided to go back 2 months later. And I had to make a lot of very conscious decisions for myself. I had to get practical and tangible over how am I not going to repeat the mistake that I just did? How am I actually going to make this work? Because I need to do something because like I can't I can't speak from the heart constantly. I just can't do it. So I had to get serious and I had to trust the process, which is trusting these scripts, trusting like the pushback work that we had set up, taking the skill development that we had at that job very seriously, which doesn't sound fun because I know from a volunteer perspective, you will, whenever you're phone banking, you're probably not going to like most of the scripts that you're asked to read, and you don't have to do them word for word, but I definitely know that that's like a thing. A lot of scripts don't read the way that we want them to. They don't read how we want to say them. And there's a lot of stuff in general leadership stuff within advocacy too that are like that, where it's like, I don't want to do that though. I wouldn't do that. And I don't know. I had to master that as a canvasser, and I was there for 2 more months that time. And I did get let go again, but that time, the second time was a little different because of personal stuff that I don't really need to get into. That was more of like a at will decision for myself. But in those 2 months, right, I made these very like clear rules for myself where I was like, okay, so if I have someone who I really believe in, that I think if I go out of my way for them and like reach into my soul and give that to them, and I think that might actually work and it'll sign them up. If I can do that, but I can do that once a day. I cannot do it more than that because it's going to destroy me. That was a rule I had to make. I had to make a rule that like if someone tries to talk to me like I'm their therapist, which happens a lot in this kind of work, advocacy work in general is and it's like a pressure cooker for emotional development. Everybody on this call is probably a lot more emotionally mature than some other people your age because this work just does that. It gives you so much that's really precious. Um, but anyways, like I had a rule where it's like if someone tries to go off to me like I'm their therapist, I had to put up very clear boundaries. Is even if I wanted to listen, even if I wanted to be like, I hear you, and I wanted to hear their story, I had to put up a barrier of like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this for you because like I get sucked into it and it's bad for me. You know, there's also probably somebody else in your life that you should honestly tell, not me. Sorry. I'm working. Ugh. And it's not fun. It's not fun because it was a position where I had to leave a lot of people behind. I don't like doing that. That's not my thing. I believe in people. I believe in humanity, but there's a what do you call it? Perseverance, whatever it is. You have to preserve yourself. You have to make boundaries, and you know, you gotta home in on what you want, and you gotta take it seriously sometimes. Well, you can still have fun, but like I don't know. In those 2 months, I did all those things. I was very conscious of that balance of like, I knew that I have an issue where if I continue to do this, I'll burn out, and I don't want to burn out. Burnout is inevitable, but like, you can make conscious decisions for yourself on like a mental wellness level that will help with that. So I did that, and I worked like I was like the best canvasser in the office for a while. It was really cool. And honestly, I started to sign up not just like the normal like empath people that I was signing up before. I was signing up a bunch of people because I was using a very traditional like canvassing structure of like I ask them to sign up, and if they say no, I do 3 levels of pushback that are well thought out. And when I did that, when I was actually committing to that and being good at it, like it worked. It was really cool. And I don't know. That was like a big thing for me because that was like my arc. It's not the same for everyone. Obviously, all of you have like different levels of all this stuff, but it's just like basically what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get at is that like burnout is a thing that does happen, and if it does happen, own it. It's okay. It's completely normal. I've burnt out like 5 times in my life so far, and I'm only 27. And I've only been doing work like this for like 3 or 4 years or something like that. So it's like it's normal. It happens. And but I just think like being able to like listen to yourself and know your limits and how to make your boundaries is really important, especially if you're a volunteer. Like as a paid staffer, it's very different. But like as you guys are volunteers, it's like, that stuff is huge. And I don't know. That's the gist of it. I know that's abstract, but I'm hoping that like that reads in some way if it makes sense to some of you, but is helpful. Um, Yeah, that's my spiel. That's my thing.